Hello, this week I'm really excited as this is the first of our interview episodes. I am delighted that I am talking with my good friend Issy Garrard from Issy Health Fitness Yoga about the challenges of being a mum and having your own business, as well as the importance of community around you and lots of other things in between. I hope you really enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to the Happy Thriving Mums podcast, the show that talks about the simple actions busy mums like you can take to prioritise your own happiness, health and fitness. And it doesn't stop there. This show also includes amazing stories from inspiring women who help others to be the best version of themselves. Because if you feel great, you thrive, and so does your family. Let's get started. Hello. Thank you, Issy, for joining us today. It's so lovely to chat with you.
Hello, I'm so pleased to be here and feel very privileged that you've asked me to be a guest on your amazing podcast. Thank you.
Oh, it's absolute pleasure. So, Issy, let's get started. So, can you tell everybody a little bit about your setup at home? How many children do you have? How does it work? That kind of thing.
Yes, I am very lucky to be a mum to three children. I have an elder girl who's just started at secondary school. I have a middle boy who's only 1 year below, so due to go to secondary school in September. And then I have my little pocket rocket, Nyla, who is 8 in year 3. So I'm girl, boy, girl. I live in a lovely little place called East Molesey, near to Hampton Court. I'm very lucky to have an amazing community where 3 years ago I set up my business called Issy Health Fitness Yoga, having been a PE teacher for 18 years. So I feel very lucky to live in a lovely little community, beautiful bushy park. You've got obviously Richmond not too far away, you've got the river. I'm a big runner, a big advocate of health and fitness, and I'm very lucky to be self-employed, to be able to run my business and be a happy, flexible mum from home.
That is so amazing. And Issy and I actually used to work together. We were teachers together for several years, and that's how I met her. And we've both now gone off away from teaching to kind of live this flexible life that is just, I think we're both on the same page when we say we want to be mums which are there for our kids, but as well, great role models to them to show them that mums can do loads of stuff which maybe you might not think them to do.
100%. I loved being a PE teacher for most of my years, and there's certain times I miss maybe being part of a team, and you have sort of shared goals and things like that. But for me, COVID was a big turning point for me personally, and maybe a bit of a wake up call of actually these young years with your children, your family just are short lived, and if you want to make the most out of it and be that kind of present mom and being engaged with their lives and be there for drop-offs and pickups and all those sort of things in between, then working from home or working for yourself is probably kind of the answer that maybe a lot of us are seeking. So I was really fortunate that COVID in some ways was a bit of a silver lining, that my husband encouraged me to do a level 3 yoga instructing course. I've been a strength instructor for a while, done quite a lot of S&C programs. So yeah, the yoga was sort of the kind of the catalyst, or the training was for me to set up my business. Little studio outside of my garden, so small bespoke yoga classes, and then slightly larger strength and fitness classes. And now my model or my business is very much in and around family life. So I do early mornings, I do lunch times, and I do evenings, and everything in between is all about keeping my home clean, making some dinners, kind of being in my happy place, making sure everything's ready for the kids. So I'm really lucky that maybe that those 18 years of teaching has enabled me to set up my own business and use all those skills as a teacher that I can put into me as an instructor now. And I've got a lovely business where probably I've got 50, 60 clients that I see, up to about 20 classes a week. But most importantly, in and around family life that doesn't encroach on time with the kids whilst they're young and they need me.
think that's so brilliant that you've managed to set yourself up and get your business running exactly how you want it around your life rather than being dictated. I think you'll agree with me. I think as a teacher, everyone thinks that you kind of have got all the time. You finish at 3 and you go home, but we were, or I am still, and Izzy was a PE teacher, and that is just not the case, is it? It's great
No,
during the holidays, but in actual school time, you can't do anything. You can't do drop-offs, you can't do pickups, you can't even get to clubs quite often. So
this is
you
it.
miss out.
And I felt like actually those parts of a kid's life, the drop-offs and pickups, they are more valuable maybe than you initially think. And the presence of you to meet them at the end of the day, and their excited little faces and the hugs and that connection that you get, maybe possibly I underestimated initially. I guess for not everyone has the opportunity to find a second, not a second career, but maybe a second job that they could, they can make fit in and around family life. So in some ways the teaching will enable me to do this. But yeah, I must admit for probably definitely last 3 or 4 years, I felt like the long hours, the lack of seeing the kids in the morning, the lack of seeing them picking up from school, all those sort of things was really getting to me. And the opportunity that sort of COVID presented to me, as well as sort of an increase in hours that my husband suddenly took on as well. One of us just needed to be a little bit more present. And that's what we wanted for our children and for our family. So I guess, it's not always possible for everyone, but if you have an idea and you commit to it and you've got some positive kind of positive and goodwill behind you, then it's always possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think when you put your mind to something and you
This
can
is it.
plan
Yeah.
for it and you're in a position to do it, nothing can stop you. No matter how hard it
Yeah.
is, how long it might take, I think you can really get there. So I think I'm right in
Totally.
saying it's 3 years old now, your business,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean, that's gone so
Mm.
quickly.
I know, it's crazy.
But how would you say it's evolved from kind of its conception to now alongside parenting? Because obviously, as you said, your eldest
Yeah.
is now in secondary school,
I
you've got
know.
two in one place, and it's
This
all
is
kind of
it.
everything changes as a parent.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny, actually, it's a good time to reflect back on it. And I think my husband brought some stats about starting small businesses up recently when I had a conversation, and he was saying, "Oh, I can't believe it's been 3 years." And he was saying something like, I mean, he wasn't meant to be putting a negative spin on it, but he basically was just like, do you realize that people that start their own small businesses up within the first year, they, like 80% of them don't make it, but within 2 years, if you get over that 3 year hurdle, I think you said 3 year, then you've done such an amazing job. So I was like, oh, but interestingly, going back to your question, when we first made the decision for me to step back from teaching and to train as a yoga instructor and set my business up, the idea initially was more about the fact that I wanted to be I wanted to be at home a bit more, and I wanted to be that present mum. I wanted to be able to put dinner on the table, pick them up from school, and do all those things. So initially, that was the idea behind it. Now you look back and you think, well, I've got better work-life balance. I'm a flexible worker. I see my kids more than ever. Like I'm so that you can't take for granted. All those small little simple things maybe that initially you think, having dinner with them or putting them to bed or bathing them, those little small little parts of your day, again, not to be undervalued. So the fact that I can just still do all that, and now I've worked up to, I say, like 20 classes a week. I do one-to-ones. I actually still go back into grey court, which is lovely, and teach yoga to sort of 14, 15, 16-year-olds. So I still have a good bit of variability within what I'm doing, especially with the kind of complement of strength and yoga classes. But probably the nicest, most rewarding thing is now I have some amazing connections and friendships in the community. And I think that's another big part of like well-being and happiness for mums and for women especially, because connections with like-minded people who are all kind of in the same boat as you, in and around the same boat, trying to kind of be a present mum, trying to earn some money, trying to put dinner on the table, all those little things. Everyone sort of has some grounding and have some commonalities. So that's what I think is one of the nicest things of what I do now. We're all kind of living the same life in and around the same thing and trying to find this flexibility and time with your kids and time with your partners. And so probably that's the vision. Maybe initially, maybe I didn't see it would happen as much as it has. So that is lovely, you know, the community interactions and feeling a part. You know, I haven't advertised, it's literally all been from word of mouth. So that's also been nice, because obviously if people spread the word, then, you know, obviously they've enjoyed coming to my classes and they feel better for them and everything else. So that's sort of how it has evolved.
Yeah, it started small and it's grown into this. It's quite a big
Yeah,
project, really, isn't it, Izzy?
it is. Yeah, it is.
But I think it's really
I'm a one-man band, so
you are.
realistically, I can't really add any more. You know, 20 classes is enough. But and again, you know, back to that real balance with life. You know, you don't want to feel like you're doing too much that you can't then keep up with getting the washing done, get the house clean, whatever you want to do, cooking dinner, because that's the whole thing of being that sort of flexible, self-employed mum.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting what you said about the community, because I think you can be, especially when you've got tiny children, despite the mother and baby groups and all of that, it can be so isolating, actually,
Really
can't it?
can, really
But
can.
then when you can become a member of a community where people are interested in sharing experiences and helping each other out and really
Yeah,
kind of like sharing the burden, it just makes life that bit happier, doesn't it? And that bit
100%.
freer.
This is
So
it. And, you know, you share like wisdom, a bit of advice. You know, my baby's not sleeping through the night, or they're having a bit of a reflux or a bit of allergy to a certain food. Or what have you tried? Or, you know, oh, actually, I'm reading this amazing book at the moment, or I'm watching this amazing series, and before you know it, those small little nuggets that you get, that, you know, let's say like-minded mums come, you know, I do get dads, must have dads, you know, and those little nuggets where you're sort of sharing bits of advice sort of indirectly. I know that's why a lot of my clients like coming to my classes. It is about obviously exercise and fitness, but it's not always like the number one aim for a lot of my clients when they come to me. They say, you know, I want to socialize a little bit more in the community. I want to go meet people. I spend all my time working from home. I don't leave my house. I want to go and connect with people, those sort of things. And that's a big part of not just your physical well-being, but your mental well-being too.
Yeah, so it's kind of twofold, isn't it? And I think I always say about exercise, it's not just about the physicality of it. It's not just what it does to improve your body. It's also the things involved in how it improves your mind, your outlook,
Absolutely.
and being
Yeah.
sociable and being around other people. That is so good for your mental health. So it's kind of
100%.
like there's so many benefits to it. It's just, I mean, I could go on about that, as could you,
Yeah,
but it just makes
100%.
it interesting. So thinking
Yeah.
about your clients, you said you do yoga, you do strength and conditioning with them. Is there anything specifically that you find mums come to you for, and that you are really able to try and help them maybe not push through, but kind of address any issues that they find particularly challenging?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, a lot of, you know, there's certain times of the year when you're in the health and fitness industry, like now, January, maybe working up to the summer, possibly September, coming up to Christmas, you know, September onwards, the health and fitness industry goes a bit mad, because everyone's in a maybe, you know, wanting to, you know, be a little bit more disciplined after Christmas, having had a boozy or a slightly overindulgent Christmas. But, you know, certain times of the year, which I've learned over the last couple of years, where people are a bit more prioritizing. And I often have these conversations with clients and just say, look, what does your week look like? What does your life look like? You know, people come to me for, you know, a bit of advice for their fitness or their health. You know, I want to lose a bit of weight. I want to tone up. I want to become a bit stronger. I'm perimenopausal. I want to make sure my bone density is good, and I want to increase my muscle mass and all those sort of things. And the biggest advice I say to them is, what can you manage in your week that you can feel like it's, you know, it's not a chore? I think people often make the mistake of these, I want to do 4 classes a week, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And before you know it, they've done 2 weeks and they can't
They
maintain
can't
it.
carry on, no.
So my biggest, you know, start off like 1 class a week, you know, because a lot of my members now, they do strength fitness and yoga together. You know, they're quite complementary types of exercise. So, you know, do 1 strength a week, do 1 yoga week. Can you make that work for your diary, for your life, that you feel like you're achieving that? If you start to do 2 or 3 and you can only make 1, and then you can't make another, and you know, before you know it, you feel inside that you're already failing, because so I would say make your goals realistic to your life. You know, if you know that you are not a morning person and getting out of bed for a 6:15 class is not going to work for you, don't do it.
No,
You
I
know, so it's
completely
working
agree.
out what's good for you, working out, you know, not putting any of these high expectations on your shoulder. Because most of my clients are, I mean, some of my yoga clients that are a bit more serious about their running, come to my yoga for their conditioning and their injury prevention. Those sort of clients, they've already got a real good base and knowledge of what they want to get out of their exercise. Whereas the majority of my clients, they just want to exercise and move the body. So, and actually, if that involves coming to my classes and having a bit of a chat whilst exercising, moving the body, getting a little bit stronger, getting a little bit more mobile, whatever it might be, then that, I think, is probably my biggest source of advice when clients come to me. You know, make what you want to do realistic. So it's not suddenly another hurdle that you can't get over, because that's the pressure that we put on our shoulders as mums. Oh, I want to cook every dinner for my family. I want to go and do 3 exercise classes a week. I want to have dinner with my friend. I want to do this. And before you know it, that's just not maintainable if you're a working mum, if you're trying to juggle a million one things. So, you know, simplify is my new word of the year. So keep things simple and what works for you.
Yeah, we're totally on the same page. My simplicity is, I think I told you the other day, and I just think
Yeah, I
it's
know.
all
But
it's
believe
all
that.
about simplicity and the small wins, because it's
This
that
is it.
compound interest, little steps forward, and it all adds up in
Yeah,
the long run, doesn't it? And I think
this is
people
it.
do, it's good to dream big. It's good to think
This
this
is
is
it.
my end goal, but actually you've got to break that down, and how are you going to
Mm,
get to that goal? And taking those little steps and those little wins on the way is actually what you
yeah,
need to
and you
think
know,
about.
100%, and giving yourself a pat on the back. I think we're really hard on
Yeah,
ourselves sometimes. Like, I know I feel sometimes I'm drowning a little bit, you know, when you've got different schools, you've got entrance exams, whatever you are with your family, everyone's got their own areas of their life that it's suddenly think, crikey, that is a little bit too much for me right now. But, you know, if you've got a bit of exercise in or whatever it is, give yourself a pat on the back and go, great, I've made myself feel good. I'm going to get
yeah.
endorphin hit and I'm going to be ready to face my day and I can do this.
Definitely. I completely agree. So, as you just said, and I completely feel the way you do, sometimes things are really tough. Sometimes things are
Yeah,
brilliant, and that's professionally and personally.
this is
So,
it.
running a business, being a mum, putting it all together, it's hard. So, what does
Mm-hmm.
happy and thriving mean to you personally, and how do you try to prioritize that in your life?
Okay, well, it's such a good question, because I suppose it's taken me a couple of years to sort of realise this, having gone from sort of 18 years of teaching in my life in and around that, having the kids quite close together. What actually is important to me and what actually makes me happy and a good mum. So probably I would say, if I've learned to be, if I can be present with my kids and when they need me and not be distracted or not be multitasking, which has been hard for me. And I
Mm.
still find moments of thinking, that can wait. And right now, I just need to listen to my daughter, who's telling me that she only got 16 out of 20 in her maths and she was upset that she didn't know her 8 times table. So being present probably is you know, a strong part of feeling that I'm listening to my kids and I can attend to their needs. Like, definitely, like we just said about doing the simple things well, like sleep and exercise and having breakfast, having lunch, having dinner. You know, doing the simple things well gives you that real foundation of, actually, this does make me quite happy, because I feel warm and I feel good about myself of exercise. I've made some dinner, so my kids are gonna, you know, smell that when they're walking through the door. So maybe just doing the simple things well. Um, and maybe probably actually, I don't know, it's more important for other people, is to prioritize what's important to you. So once you've worked out that, actually, if you know, for me, for example, I love my running, and I'm currently doing another marathon block, a training block. So I'm doing the Manchester Marathon at the end of April. If I know that I've got my training runs in and I've done my S&C work and I've done, you know, that's important to me. I know that I'm going to be a better mum because I've done something that's important to me. Whereas I know that when the kids are young, it's hard sometimes with exercise and everything else. But I think if you know that you prioritize yourself, even if it's going for a coffee and a walk, whatever is important to you, and you prioritize that. I think all too often those little things get pushed to the bottom priority list, but they are important. I know getting your house clean and getting dinner on the table and getting, obviously, working is important, but there's still time for you and your, your priorities.
I think you're so right. And I think I worked it out. I think half an hour of your day is something like 5% of the whole day. I probably got my maths wrong there. This is just off the top of my head. It's not much, is it, when you think about it? And people think about things in percentages all the time. When you think about 5% of something, it's nothing. So if you could try and find that, even just 5 minutes can make a big difference, can't it?
5 minutes of reading a book, or picking up the phone and just ringing a friend that you haven't spoken to for a while. And then probably, actually, I would, sorry to harp on about this question, this is because it's a good question. The other thing that's probably come about recently is this idea for me that actually a bit of solidarity actually is good for me sometimes. Like the need of just being on my own and doing one simple thing, like sitting with a coffee and not scrolling at the same time, or not trying to write an email, try not to multitask, and just doing one thing well and sipping my coffee and thinking, that tastes really nice, I'm going to enjoy my coffee. This idea of busy, but actually, I've had my coffee, I'm now going to do my work emails, for example. So this kind of notion of, I think you can get mixed up with solidarity and isolation. Like isolation is for me a little bit negative, about being on your own, being lonely, not connecting with friends or in your community, whereas actually periods of solidarity are actually quite powerful and quite meaningful.
I think the difference between, to me, isolation and solidarity is kind of the choice. I think if you're isolated, quite often that's not a choice. You haven't chosen to be that way. But choosing to take solitude and take those few moments kind of like on your own is a choice. And that's when you kind of gain different things out of it, really. But I think it's really interesting that is one of the things that you kind of, and also I think as a mum, everything is chaos. I don't know, when you've got the children around,
I know
it's very rarely quiet, and that when it does go quiet, it's actually worrying and something's going on that you've got to go and investigate. But I think it is really interesting to kind of pick up on those two things which are there. I completely agree with you. So my final question to you, before we find out where our listeners can find you, is if you could suggest 3 things to the listeners to try, or even if it's just one, like your biggest tip to try and help them prioritize themselves, become healthier and happier, what would you suggest that they do, or where would you suggest that they start?
Well, probably being a bit of an exercise guru and a lover of health and fitness, I would probably say doing some form of movement exercise where you don't particularly need weights or equipment. You could do some simple plank work, you could do some squats, you could do some lunges, you could put some music on that that's going to make you happy. Music is another thing that I have found that gives me a lot of happiness and excitement. So if we all kind of, especially mums our sort of age, where maybe you're perimenopausal, or all the advice out there professionally from doctors and dietitians, nutritionists, is to do some strength work, building bone density and muscle mass. So if you could find something, or a walk for you, it might be just be a walk, it might be a little stretch session on your mat or on your carpet. So I would definitely say finding 15 to 20 minutes to do some form of movement, 100%. And then again, not having that kind of putting that pressure on your shoulders. So, when you decide that you want to make a little bit of a change, or if you want to do, 15 minutes of exercise or movement, do it once a week to begin with. Can you stick to your once a week? Then you maybe add in twice a week. And you don't put extra pressure on your shoulders when already life can be quite overwhelming, and there's a lot, sometimes it can be hard to kind of hard to prioritize what is important for you right there and then. And then I definitely not feeling guilty about doing something that makes you happy. I think we all are proper to this sometimes. We think, oh well, right now the most important thing is that I wash my kids' PE kit because they've got to have it tomorrow. And actually you could do that later on, and right now you should probably sit with a book, or do a bit of, if you wanted to do a bit of exercise. So not feeling guilty about prioritizing yourself as well.
They're really good ones. Mum guilt, it's everywhere, isn't it?
Mum guilt, we've all got it.
Oh, got it. Try and get
So
rid of it, but I'm
I
not sure we
know,
can.
no.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Issy. So, where can our listeners find you? And have you got any exciting projects coming up that you want to mention?
Well, so you'll be able to find me on Instagram, Issy Health Fitness Yoga. That's my Insta account. I share some of my the Vinyasa flow yoga sequences that I do every week. I share some sort of training goals I'm doing. So I always share my thought of the week. So I do a bit of mindfulness and well-being and share a bit of that as well, because that's important. I've also got a web page, www.issyhealthfitnessyoga.co.uk. My little project potentially this year is to qualify as a pretty low level nutritionist. So I get a lot of questions in my business about diet and nutrition, and it's a passion of mine. And I think the two go hand in hand. If you are passionate about your exercise and your training, which I am, you have to be mindful about eating the right diet in terms of, getting the right balanced diet, or getting more protein, or getting more carbs, depending on what training you're doing. So that's my project this year, to be qualified to be able to give some professional advice to people if they ask me.
That's so
And then
exciting, because I know how much
possibly
you
a little
love it.
Pilates class, a little Pilates course, but we'll see how that one goes.
I think the thing with you, Izzy, I know you're always a person that grows. There's always a project underneath somewhere, and you're always looking to do better, but you do amazingly already. And I know from what you've said and talking to you, you're brilliant. So
thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. I hope I haven't
Thank you for
waffled too
coming
much at
on.
you.
You've been lovely. So thank you so much. It's been amazing.